Okay, so welcome to the PTO output shaft rebuild for a Cub Lo-Boy 154. I had audio to go along with this video, but the wind was terrible this day and it was just making it unbearable. I was sitting here editing the video and it was driving me crazy as well. So I am going to do a separate audio to go over top of the audio that was with this video, and we're going to go through the reassembly of this shaft, and I will give you all the information that you need. Okay, so the first thing you're going to find is you'll find your shaft just as your PTO output shaft. Alright, the small section there with the small splines, that is what you're going to hook up all your PTO equipment to. That is the output towards the back of the tractor. The larger section goes to the input shaft, which comes from the belt drive on the back side of the motor. Now, everything that you're going to put on is going to be on the big end there. You will notice that it's got 4 keyways. Okay, I had to clean those up. You know, you might want to do this to clean yours up once in a while. There's 3 ring grooves that you will see. Those are for snap rings that we'll show you later on. You have 2 spirals and you have 1 snap ring that will go on there, and I will show those to you here in just a little bit. Everything has to go back in a certain order. I also have the drawing laying there on the table in the distance underneath the paint cans, so that we can put it all back together and I can give you kind of the numbers as to what is what. Now inside there are 2 needle bearing sets, one about where my finger is now and one out towards the very end where the hole is. Those are for the shaft that comes from the motor back. That's your input shaft to go into there. I'm just telling you basically that I had a little dirt in there, is cleaning it out. If they're not bad or they're not grinding or damaged in any way, you probably won't need to replace them. I had a newer looking set in there, which either the previous owner or maybe the owner before had done it. So now we're going to start putting everything together according to the drawing. And I'll bring you over and show you the drawing. Okay, this was printed offline. You can find it, in several different spots online. Those 2 plates right there, they are concaved plates. They have a crown to them, and I will show you that in just a second. As you can see how it has kind of a crown to it. It crowns off to the right, so it's very similar to a big washer that has had the center pushed down and caused it to, receive a crown to it, or a little bit of spring to it. Now, when I first put this together, because I've already put it together once and I put it on there, I will show you there's several different ways you can interpret this drawing. Alright, and when you put them together, this is where I'll show you. So when I first put them together, I put the crowns facing away from one another, so you can see the distance that's in between there. When you do that, it takes up way too much space for one of the other parts. So when you go to activate it, it won't activate. That's what you're looking for. The parts should be lined up, facing the same direction. So now, the first thing you have to put on is one of those spring clips. Okay, and it goes all the way down at the very bottom groove. Now, these spring clips are like a big giant slinky. Okay, so you have to start them down, and then you'll get to the first groove. You got to get it out of that groove, and you'll have to slide it down to the next groove. I usually start it with by hand. You can get it on there and get it started around, and it's, like I said, like a big slinky, so you can almost pull it and go around it until you get to the very end, and then it takes a screwdriver to pop it over. Once it's over, and I'll show you here in just a second. Once you get it over, and you get it popped on there, right? So you can take a big washer if you can find one and just push it to the next spot. Okay, push it all the way down, clip, it'll pop into the next slot. You pop it out of that one, go down, get to the second one, you slide all the way down until you hit the third one. With these type of clips, when you hit the groove that it should go into, it will automatically pull itself into that groove and lock in. Okay. Another little trick here is if you get a little screwdriver, like a little pocket screwdriver, and you get it started, okay, you can actually put your screwdriver in with the round part and just kind of follow around the shaft with it, and it will actually pull the spring out of it. Okay, but you can only get so far with that. Then towards the end, you'll put the screwdriver in and just kind of roll it over, and you'll get the hang of it. It'll pop right out of the groove, and then just slide it down the rest of the way. So as you can see, that clip goes in the very last spot all the way at the bottom. Now, the next piece, it says, is a ring, a spacer ring. So you put your spacer on there. It'll go on. It should just slide all the way down. Once you get it down, make sure it's all the way down over that spring clip that you just put on there. Okay. Now the next part are those two plates. Now you can put them on in two different directions. One with the crown going up. Okay. And you can also install them with the crown going down. But the way the drawing shows it is with the crown going up. So when you put them on and you slide it down, it should form like a little umbrella over the long part of the shaft. As you can see, it goes from the high side on the big part of the shaft down, so it's making a little umbrella. Then you got a plate number 30, or no, these are your rotating plates. These have a bearing inside them, which I will show you here in just a second. I got to get the plate. Okay. Okay. I'm sure I'm going to take it off here. Okay. Too close. Back out. Still too close. It's still too blurry. But that's okay. So it's these two pieces right here. It's that bearing and that cup right there. So that's these two pieces put together right here. Okay. The bearing itself is the black and silver part, and the cup itself is the yellow part. Now, when you put them in, they will end up flat on the other side. I did not have a press to install these with. Okay, these are supposed to be pressed in bearings. Now, they should go down, seat fully. And what I did was I took a socket. That is an 1 3/4 inch socket, in case you're wondering. Put it so that it meets the outer edge of the bearing. You do not want to hit the black part. You do not want to hit the inner silver part. You want to hit the outer silver part. Take a hammer of some sort and smack it. Okay, put it on something that's solid, that won't give. Start tapping it down. As you tap it down, it will go in, and you have to seat it flush. My camera, for some reason, was not focusing at all today. Now, this black part here, that's just a seal. That's all it is. If you hit it with anything, such as a screwdriver, a hammer, or a socket, or anything, you're going to damage the seal. You will have to pull the bearing back off, put a new one in, because now it's no longer a sealed unit. The inner part is what the bearing rides on. If you smack that, you could damage the bearings, you could damage the race, you could damage all kinds of parts of the bearing. So you do not want to hit that, and you do not want to hit the black ring. You want to hit all the way out on the outermost silver ring. Here I'm explaining it's very similar to this. Okay, so the outer part of this cup area would be the outermost part of that bearing. The inner part, for those of you that don't know, would be where the balls would sit inside the bearing and the seal, and then that little ring would represent the inner ring, okay, which would rest up against the ball bearings. So again, don't hit the inner silver part, don't hit the black ring. You want to hit all the way out on the outermost silver ring. The reason I made this video was because I cannot find any information about doing a rebuild on this anywhere on the internet. So this video should be the first of its kind for a Cub Cadet 154 output shaft. Okay, so now getting back to the process. So you're going to install this cup side down. Okay, so this has a cup side and a flat side. So the cup side goes on, okay, faces towards those two plates that you just put on. All right, as you can see, the little divots that are on there, that's where the ball bearings go. Okay, so next is a snap ring. This is, goes on, it goes all the way down, not the first one, but to the second snap ring location. Okay, put in a little tool. These tools are very invaluable. So if you're going to get a set, get a good set. Don't buy a cheap set, you know, from Harbor Freight or, you know, some online company that sells cheap tools, because what will happen is you'll bust the pins off. You bust the pins off and you won't be able to use it at all. So buy a good set. Alright, so you should have a little play there. As you can see, that moves up and down. That's how it should be. Okay, now the next thing, I think I had a little paint dried in one of the pockets there. Sorry, it I guess left a little paint on one of the balls, which really isn't a big deal because at some point it'll bust free and then it'll just start rolling around. But you want to try and keep that stuff as clean as you possibly can. Okay, so there's the 3 ball bearings. Next is going to be the other plate. You're going to install it cup side up, and you want to make sure to line up the ball bearings in the holes. Now, at this point, I'm going to tell you a little secret. So as you can see from the view, I've got the handle on top below the handle on the bottom. The handle on top needs to be to the right of the handle on the bottom, not to the left. So I had to take this back apart, move the handle to the right of the one below so that it would be in the right spot. So now, this is the interesting part. Now, the little collar that you saw me put on, that is just a spacer collar. Do not lose that when you take this apart. It is very important. Elsewise, you're going to have to make another one. Okay? Now, according to this, you have 2 number 33 parts, which are labeled as 33. They are original parts that you have and there they are. They are real thick steel plates. They're probably, oh, I don't know, I think they're a 1/4 inch to 3/16 of an inch, maybe, no, 1/4 inch to 5/16 of an inch thick, somewhere around there. Solid steel plates. They're painted on one side, not on the other. Now, when you install the first one, you install it paint side down because the clutch disc presses up against the unpainted side. So you don't want it pressing on the paint side. You're going to get premature wear. You're going to get paint all over the clutch disc. It's going to slip. There's all kinds of stuff it's going to do. So the first thing is a clutch disc. So you put in the clutch disc. Next it says should be 2 wavy washers. Now, I'm counting now to tell you that there are 8 wavy washers throughout the entire system. There's also 4 steel washers. Now, here's where I tell you, do not lose this little spring clip. It is very important. It is very similar. Actually, it is exactly like the first one that I put on. And I'm going to show you how it's designed. So, it appears to be a piece of spring steel. Okay? And finish cleaning it off. I've tried to check Hamilton Bob's. I haven't seen it yet, whether he has it or not. But you can swap these out for the other type. Alright? So, as you can see, it's a piece of spring steel. It's like a big spring. Now, it goes on the very top, right there at the very end to hold everything on. Do not lose it. Okay? Keep a hold of it. Keep it, in a safe spot. I put it back in a little baggie. Matter of fact, I'll get it now because it blew off the table. So pick your little baggie up, put it back in the baggie, and make sure to hold on to it and do not lose it. If you lose it, you have to go out and try and find a new ring clip to put on there, which is similar to the very second one that we put on in the middle. Okay, there should be 8 wavy washers. So each clutch disc you put on, you're going to put on 2 of those wavy washers. Alright, so as you can see, they're wavy in design. They're not flat like a regular washer. Doesn't matter how you put them on, just put them on. Okay, next is going to be one of the 3 steel plates. You'll get 3 of these steel plates with a kit if you buy a kit. Okay, make sure to keep them clean, because if you don't, you get dirt on them. You'll end up having dirt inside the clutch disc housing, and then what's going to happen is you're going to end up getting premature wear on your discs because they're going to get damaged by the dirt and everything else. Alright, so you put that on, and the wind blew all my... I'm going to lay that down because I know if I don't, it's going to fall over and everything's going everywhere. So, the wind blew my washers down there, so I got to pick up the 4 steel washers. Like I said, the wind was just terrible this day. It was like, I didn't think it was that bad, but it really picked it up on the camera microphone. Alright, now, back to where I was. So the last thing we put in was the flat plate. So now, you're going to follow the same pattern. It doesn't matter how you want to do it. If you want to do 4 wavy washers, then the flat disc, then do the clutch disc, then do the flat disc, it's the same pattern. So, after you do the flat disc, the next thing you're going to put on will be either clutch disc or 2 spring clips, or 2 spring clips then the clutch disc. Either way, doesn't matter. Alright, so you drop them on. I picked up 3 there, must have been. Then you're going to do your flat disc again. Make sure that it's clean. Okay, you can see I saw some dirt on it and I was putting it on. These do have a little bit of oil on them, so they will pick up anything you lay on them. Alright, 2 more spring clips, or 2 more of the flexible washers. As you can see, it didn't matter, I did them first. Then you've got the wavy washers, I'm sorry. Then you got the clutch disc, Then you've got your steel plate again. And you can probably reuse the steel plates that came with your kit. Okay. So it's not required that you get new ones. You can get just the new clutch disc. But if yours are worn pretty bad, I would probably get new ones. And then you're going to put another clutch disc and the wavy washers. The last thing to go on is your number 33 plate, painted side up. Okay? Because you want the clean side to be facing towards the clutch disc. Now, these 4 steel washers that they give you that come with the kit, okay? The 4 steel washers go on the very top, right? The last thing to go on is your spring clip, right? So you have to push down a little bit, get your spring clip started, and then that locks everything in. Now, inside there, okay, you could exchange it for the one that was inside that little piece if you wanted to. But just remember how much of a pain it is to try and get on and get off. That's why they're on the very end of the shafts and not in the middle. So I usually just start it in the groove, work my way around, bringing the spring around with it, pull it out, pull out. You just put just enough tension for it to get over the lip of the shaft, and then just keep pushing down as you go around. And then when you get to the very end, I usually just take a screwdriver, put it in the keyway, and push over, which you'll see me do here. Okay, and then I'll roll that over, roll the next one over, and then go around and push down and make sure that it's locked into the groove itself. Then I will push in on it to make sure that it's fully seated. Okay. Now, as you can see, the discs move around pretty freely. They should. Okay? That's because there is no tension on them right now. Now, as you pull up, because one stays stationary and one goes up, you can see they don't move anymore. They now are locked in place because it is actually locked in and locked together. Now, that shouldn't slip. It shouldn't cause any issues. As you start to use this more and more, you'll notice that it will actually lock in real hard at first, and then later on, you'll notice that it'll be a lot easier to lock in. Now this is your retaining bearing on the very back that goes into, not this one, but there will actually be another one that I will show you in a second because I picked up the wrong one. So you can see there's a little hole in there. I kept saying this is for that to go into, but it didn't line up, and it was making me question whether I had the right one or not. Then I put the bearing on there, and I was like, well, that doesn't line up either. So what am I missing? So here in just a minute, you'll see that I figure out that I have the wrong one. And now I go get it. So when I come back, you'll see that it takes me a minute to figure out which one's which, because it still throws me off because I think it should go all the way down, and that's not right. It doesn't go all the way down. So I pull it back off, and I'm looking at it, trying to figure out. You can see the scowl on my face, like I'm trying to figure out how this goes back on there because I can't remember it right off the top of my head. Then all of a sudden it dawns on me. Like, wait a minute. Let me try the other one again. I slide this down, and I come up, and you can see me wiggling my fingers, thinking, yeah, that's not right. That shouldn't have play in it. I pull that up. I got wiggle in that. Yeah, I don't think that's right either. No, I shouldn't have that play. This is the second one that I went and got. And you can see it's kind of tight. That's the one that goes on there. So now, there's your little divot that's in the shaft. Now that I've figured out which one's which, now I know what I need to do. So that divot is for these set screws. One set screw, doesn't matter which one, goes into that divot on the shaft. and I give you the part number, I will get the part number and I will put it in the description down below. These are the bearing clamps. That's the only thing I could think to call them because that's all they do is clamp on the bearing. Make sure to put one on before you install this. Nope. Wrong way. Wrong way. Try again. Pull it off. There you go, genius. Alright. So I slide it back on there. Now it's in the right spot. Okay? So now I have to go get my Allen wrenches. Yeah, my back was hurting me today. That's why I look like I'm moving kind of funny. And I'm just bringing out my little set because my other set is in my garage there behind me. So you just pull it up and you line it up best you can. Put the Allen wrench in there. What I normally do is I get it close to the hole, start the Allen wrench in a little bit, and then you'll see me wiggle it back and forth. And then I'll line it up. So as you start to go in, if you wiggle it back and forth, you will actually feel it hit the sides as you start to go in with the Allen wrench. It'll actually hit the sides of that hole. Then you take the other one, you tighten that one up too. Okay, that's your second one. So they come together. Okay, now when you hold them together and hold tight, they will have no way to wiggle around. Alright, now I got the bolts. These are the bolts that you're going to have to use to put this back together with. Okay, flat head. They call them carriage bolts, okay, because they're flat on one side. They got a square block underneath the head. They go in and they actually lock into the square openings of the bearing clamps. Okay, and then you got a lock washer and a nut. And the other side will have the same thing. This bolts into the housing, which I did not bring out, but it's pretty self-explanatory how it bolts back into the housing, and then the housing bolts back up. Now I am going to tell you this: when you put this back together, you have to put the bracket on first in order to be able to get to all the bolts. Then you can bring this section in, bolt it in, put that all in, get it all set up, then bring the drive shaft from the pulley up front at the motor and the slide it into the PTO output shaft, and you should be good to go. All right. So the reason I started this is because we are moving to North Carolina probably in the next 2 or 3 months to start our project with our North Carolina homestead. This is the first video of many that I'll probably be posting on here. We're going to be building a house, building a farm, building a homestead. If you like what you saw, yes, it's not the best video that's out there right now, but if you like what you saw, like, subscribe, and hit the notification button so you're notified of all new upcoming emails and everything. All right? Thank you.